Hey everyone, I hope that you're doing well. I just wanted to check in now that we are finishing up with our last discussion of the class. It goes so fast. I know I keep saying that, but that's where we're at right now. I really enjoyed reading your thoughts on Benjamin's work on La Revolucion and thinking about the Mexican Revolution in terms of myth and collective memory. I've added a few follow up questions and comments on the discussion board and on Twitter. I'd love to hear your ideas about some of the limitations of Benjamin's way of interpreting the revolution and its memories. I think it is important for us as historians to think about not just the quote unquote historical facts, but also the ways that people in power and people who are not in power use memories of the past or constructions of how they've interpreted the past to make claims on the present. And I think that's really the point of what Benjamin is looking at in his work. Something else for us to think about are who are his voceros of the revolution, because he does get at an important kind of maybe a different interpretation or a different perspective on how the revolution is remembered by looking at those who were literate, who were writing in newspapers, who were trying to shape memories of what had happened in Mexico's revolution, as opposed to just the ways that the politicians, the presidents, were doing those same things. But something that's missing and something that came up quite a few times in our discussions is how did most Mexican people interpret and think about those same issues? I'm going to put a link to a blog post that I wrote about Samuel Brunk's book called, the name's escaping me right now. It's over here on my shelf somewhere. It's called Posthumous Zapata, or The Posthumous History of Emiliano Zapata. And so what he looks at there is the ways that Zapata has been remembered and represented in Mexican pop culture and beyond. He uses the concept of hegemony, and he kind of departs from that and rejects it a little bit, because that's something that historians of the revolution in the mid 90s and early 2000s were thinking about, as a means of trying to see what most everyday people were thinking about the memories of the revolution. And so by looking at images of Zapata and ways that people made claims on who he was and what he meant to their communities, he's able to get at some of those questions that I keep asking. I used to assign that book instead of Benjamin. The reason I switched is that Brunk's book is quite dense, and so it's hard to work through quickly. But it's something I did want to point out to you if you're interested in looking further into those kinds of questions. We're to the point now, we're finishing up Module 7 today. And so those of you who are in the 500 level section of our class, the grad student section, you'll be reading Gillingham's Unrevolutionary Mexico and writing your blog posts based on that. And then the rest of you will answer that question about whether or not the revolution has legs. And so that's how we're rounding out the coursework. Next week, you'll be working on your final projects. Those are due Wednesday, the 27th by midnight. And then I'll get feedback to you as quickly as I can, because I need to have final grades posted pretty quickly after that as well. If you have any questions about where we're headed, please let me know. I'm going to add a few images of the monument to the revolution, because we read about that this week in Benjamin, and it's a place that I visited quite a bit. My first time in Mexico City when I was doing research for my dissertation, and somewhere that we visited just recently when I was there. Unfortunately, the museum was closed, so in the footings of the building, they have a museum to the revolution, and so all that we had access to, though, was an art installation, so I'll put some photos of that, about the idea of nonviolent revolution. And then we went up to the very top because they have an observation deck up there. So that was kind of cool. So anyway, I'll add some of those things here as well. Again, I hope you're doing well. If you have questions, please let me know, and I will talk to you soon.